as well. I'll also just flag that we really are interested in having a couple of teachers complete the curriculum and really take that on this year so that you can really be the test pilots for this curriculum. And if that's something of interest, or if maybe that's something you've already started to do, and I'm looking at one of you who's gotten access to the curriculum in the past as you've been fleshing out your cyber course, let us know, because we would be very interested in offering additional support and really having you be the pilot for this opportunity. So please be in touch with us about that if that's of interest, to really try out the curriculum. So next is our Meet the Team. I'm going to just very quickly share. My name is Raisa Schwanbeck. I'm an Associate Director of School Design with the grade 9 to 14 schools. Those are our P-TECH schools. There are 10 P-TECH schools in New York City. They focus on various career pathways. I have been very interested and very supportive of our 2 schools, both of which are with us today, that are focusing on cybersecurity. That's Inwood Early College and the Bronx Academy for Software Engineering, both partnered with Bronx Community College, also focusing on cybersecurity. My pleasure to support this work, and a pleasure to work with Jessica Kemper, who is the Director of Industry Engagement at the DOE.
Yep, you heard from me already, so I will hand it off to Chris. Take it away, Chris.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. As you can see on the slide, I was one of the lead curriculum developers, and spent a majority of time working through it. Obviously, very strong shout out to both Damiano and Maurice for helping me with it. And by way of background, I've spent about 12, 13 years in the field of cybersecurity. I've played a lot of different roles, some technical roles, some more high-level leadership roles, management roles, and throughout that course, especially in my time as a consultant, I did lead a lot of training and curriculum building for organizations as they were looking to upskill and train their own workforce in cybersecurity.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Maurice Valdez. So I'm a teacher at Queens Technical High School. I'm a CTE teacher there. And what I teach there is network engineering and cloud computing. So I teach AWS and Cisco Network Academy. And I've been working on this project with the team here for the past year and a half, I think over almost 2 years now. So I'm really invested in this program, and I really want to make sure that we created something that you guys will actually take and you're gonna enjoy teaching to your kids. And also I'm looking forward to create an environment where we can actually talk about different strategies and how we can actually support you. So we want to create a support network, and I want to make sure that this is successful. So I'm here to support every single one of you guys. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And if I can't, I'll definitely relay it to somebody else who may be able to answer it.
Hi, everybody. Damiano from the Brooklyn STEAM Center. I do a lot of things, but for this project, it was mainly a lot of consulting and support for Chris, who made an amazing set of artifacts for you all to work with today. To Maurice's point, we want this to start to become a community, not just of teachers, not just of CTE teachers, but those of us that have a vested interest in computer technology and cybersecurity specifically. I haven't been working on the project as long as everybody else, but what I can say is that, there's a lot of boxes that needed to be checked off. And in terms of things like program quality and like curriculum requirements. And I did my best to make sure we could check off as many of those boxes as possible, so that way you don't have to worry about it. But more on that later.
Awesome. So we are going to do a bit of a roll call here. Our time is limited, so I'm gonna ask you to keep it to 30 seconds if you can try to do that. We've got your names listed here alphabetically by last name. So if you could say your name, your school, and what you hope to gain from this training in 30 seconds or less. So Carlos, go ahead and take it away. Looks like Carlos may not be on right now. So we will, and I know Jimmy was had a bit of a family issue, so he won't be on. Rosabeth, you are on.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. My name is Rosabeth Eddy. Most people call me Rosie. I'm from Brooklyn Technical High School. I'm hoping to both understand this curriculum, be able to turnkey either some units or some of the resources. You know, I teach digital electronics at the school, and I'm also an assistant principal there, but I'm certainly open to, in particular, to teaching the new courses when they come into the building. So when we brought AP-CSP into the building, I taught that. And if this comes into the school, then I would be interested in maybe teaching it as well, just so that I have a good comprehension of everything that my teachers have to go through.
Great. And when you see your name, you can just feel free to go next. So Emily, you're up.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, I'm Emily. I teach at the Young Women's Leadership School of Astoria. We're an all-girls public school, grades 6 through 12. And we offer software engineering CT track starting in 6th grade. So I'm excited to see where this curriculum fits in. I teach the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, and just excited to see what's going on. I'm also here with Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Jordan. I work with Emily. It's my pleasure working with her. And I think what I'm most interested in what type of software and platforms you would recommend so we can practice with our students how to penetrate systems and things of that nature. Since our school, we're more specialized on creating software and using software, and we don't really have a network that we can use physically to set that up for, well, hacking attacks and stuff like that. So it would be lovely to hear any in that regards. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm next. I'm Reggie Joseph. I teach at Bayside High School in Queens. Been there about 17 years now. And for about 18, 19 years, we've had a computer science program. So I'm one of the teachers. I focus on web design, more at the sophomore level. We, at the junior level, at the freshman level, they learn coding with Python. And then in the junior level, they take the AP Computer Science exam, and the senior year is a Keystone project. So our focus has always been computer science, but as we know, cybersecurity being such a big thing, programming skills can be applied in that area, and so we want to slowly, we've been thinking about incorporating that for a while now, but this looks like a way where if we can have lessons built in, which seems to be the big challenge, getting in those lessons. So if we have a curriculum, that would definitely help. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Do we have Mr. Etehar with us? Richmond Hill High
Looks
School?
like not.
Okay.
So you can
We'll
jump
go
to the
on.
next slide.
Yep. Mr. Landy?
Oh, looks like you're on mute, Daryl.
Thank you. I'm Daryl Landy. I am at a ninth grade teacher, teach computer science, introduction to computer science, UX, UI, and now cybersecurity at Bronx Academy for Software Engineering. I'm hoping to get a better handle on this cybersecurity curriculum. That's it.
Thanks, Daryl. How you doing? John Mannion, base. Looking for materials. Help the kids out. Next up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adrian Sukchan from Urban Assembly Gateway. What I hope to get out of this is to take everything that this team has worked on and add it to my cybersecurity curriculum that I've been creating. That's not all that great. So just taking everything and making it great. Next up.
Thank you.
Mike Spaventa, Port Richmond High School. We are in our first year as being a P-Tech school, and I guess what makes us a little bit unique as a P-Tech school is that we are not a full P-Tech school. We will have cohorts of students that are P-Tech, with our focus being computer programming. So I think looking forward to seeing where this can potentially fit in our scope and sequence.
Great. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Ben Roy Taylor from George Westinghouse High School. I've pretty much been around for a while now at a number of different schools, and always looking to innovate and revamp existing curriculum and support new staff.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Stacy Thomas. I'm at Chelsea CTE High School. And to echo Ben Roy, been around for a while at different schools, but always trying to figure out how to stay relevant. Damiano started the groundwork at Chelsea and before he went to Brooklyn STEAM, and I just really want to pick up where he left off at and try to make, just to refresh and just try to make Chelsea relevant in terms of in that space. And I appreciate all the work that everyone put into it because I know it takes a lot of work. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wim Sang. I'm at Intech Academy. I teach 8th grade web design as well as grade 11 and 12 networking fundamentals and senior networking engineering classes. So what I'm looking at cybersecurity is to update and freshen up our curriculum, and as well as, well, I've been infusing the basic concepts in. I just wanted to see if I can infuse even more into the curriculum that we have right now. Okay.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening. My name is Craig Young. I teach at Inwood Early College for Health and Technology. This is my first year teaching, and I'm teaching Intro to IT and Intro to Computer Science. And I'm hoping to incorporate this curriculum, cybersecurity, into our school because we have different and we're doing networking, so we want to see how best we could incorporate cybersecurity with those other courses to make it a better school technology-wise. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Please drive safe. We're so glad to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nicole. Hey, Nicole Zagata from Queens Technical High School. I teach 12th grade computer repair, and the reason why I'm here is because we want to definitely revamp the program and definitely make some changes in regards to keeping the IT industry current, especially in our building, and just creating a new pathway for our students to learn new material.
Thank you. I think that is everyone. So I have the exciting task here of putting the link to the folders for all the materials, which I'll do momentarily. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to hand it off to Damiano, who's going to give an overview of what to expect and kind of theory behind these 2 training sessions. So you can take it away, Damiano.
Absolutely. And Damiano, can we just pause for like 10 seconds to reflect on what an incredible crowd we have here and what a historic moment we are in, that we are together building New York City's cybersecurity curriculum together. So when we look back at all that's been accomplished in 2020, let us also remember November 9th, when we initiated truly a group of us who have come together to say, we're going to construct cyber. We're going to think about how this curriculum can be implemented for New York City students. And, it's a busy year, but we're really excited to have this also happening as a really exciting chance for us as a community to spend time together. So, Damiano, feel free to add anything else to that you'd like. It's an exciting occasion.
We got a lot of work to do, but we're going to have a good time doing it. We've got talented people in the room. And so we know that this is only going to result in positive things as long as we keep going together. And so with that, because we've got limited amount of time to get you on that roadmap to success, we've built out these 2 sessions to really support you. And so this first session is dedicated in a way to really give you the curriculum purpose, why it was designed this way, and then spend time actually looking at that curriculum. You'll have the opportunity, based on your preferred learning style, to work with me, Maurice, or Chris, based on how you want to learn. So in a little bit, we're going to do our curriculum review, and if you're going to chill out with me, you're going to do a full walkthrough. We're going to go step-by-step lecture style with all the content. If you're going with Maurice, he's going to help you break down those units as a more modular component. And then if you're really just looking for, content that you want to pull, you just want to look through it yourself, and then ask questions, you can jump off with Chris, who has, all of the content up in his head. And so you being able to take that time to go through what you want to do to figure out what the curriculum is. That way you don't feel like you're locked into just listening to somebody for a half an hour straight. Then we'll regroup. We'll ask some questions based around like big concerns, excitable moments. And then how do you want to use this course? And once again, we'll break up based on your initial thought process of how you would want to use this course, whether, the full 108 for an entire semester, maybe you're only going to use parts of it, or maybe you're only going to use specific lessons. And again, that goes down to a very individualized level. And we'll regroup again to see any big concerns or things with that. Our second session, which is next week on Monday, same time, you'll be able to join in with one of us again to really look at different training levels. We're going to record all 3 of those, so that way you have a solid 300 minutes of technical training that you can refer back to that relates directly to the curriculum. And then also, of course, ask those big questions and worries for, the hands-on skills that our students are going to need to do and you need to know in advance. And then we'll talk about resources, support structure, additional meetings to ensure that you feel part of the community and that you know where you're going to be headed next. So that's our kind of upfront training agenda plan for us over these next 2 sessions. Okay, Jessica has put in the chat a link to those resources. Okay, and for this first section, we're going to be able to make a choice. Okay, so just like you would with your students, everybody learns differently. And so for those of you that want to have somebody essentially guide you through the curriculum, we're going to look at, all of the big components. You'll stay with me here in the main room for the full walkthrough. For those of you that want to pick and choose and be like, I need to look at units at a time rather than individual lessons or the whole thing from word to mouth, you'll be jumping into Group B with Maurice. And for those of you who are like, I need time to just look at the content while we're sitting here and ask the industry expert our good questions based on that material, you'll be joining Chris. So you'll be able to move around if you need to, in case you feel like, maybe I'm in the wrong room. But these are the typical ways that we're going to help you review this curriculum, but it's up to you on which opportunity you want to take advantage of. Okay, so to do that, and to make this kind of easy for you, okay, we are going to set up the breakout rooms, which I don't think that I can do from where I am.
Yep, I'll be handling that on my end.
Okay. But based on that, Jessica has come up with this protocol to name yourself based on the group that you want to be on. And so for those of you that have never had to name yourselves before, you can right click or hold control and click, if you're on a Mac, your specific portrait, the picture of you on Zoom, and you'll be able to go ahead and rename yourself. You can also click the 3 dots at the top right and be able to rename yourself like I just did.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Which group would you recommend? Like familiar with cybersecurity, but never really looked at the curriculum. So should I do the full walkthrough or break down by unit?
That's a really good question. So this particular activity doesn't entirely rely on your knowledge for cybersecurity. It's more about how you would like to engage in the review of the materials. So if you would prefer somebody walk you through every single thing, I would chill out with Group A. If you're a person who's like, I need it to be sectioned, you might want to go to Group B. And if you're a person who's like, I don't want somebody talking to me for the next 20 minutes, I got to look at this stuff on my own first, you're going to want to go to group C. Does that help, Stacy?
Yep, thanks.
So the folks in Group A are going to stay in this current room and see if there's still around maybe, I don't know, 8 of us that still need to do a bit of renaming. So I'm just going to wait for that.
How do I rename myself again?
Right click on the mouse.
Right click on the mouse?
Over your name.
Oh.
There you
All right,
go.
so Maurice, I'm going to send you to room 1. And looks like we've got a few, most people are saying Group A. We've got a few people saying Group B, so that would be with Maurice. And Group C, Chris, we don't have anyone for you. We may have to keep you in Group A, which I'm excited about. So looks like we've got Ben Roy. Which one? You can just tell me, Ben Roy. Which one? Oh, you're Group A. I see you renamed yourself. Okay, cool. Hold on one second there.
I'd like to be in Group A, please. I'm Craig Young.
Okay.
And I can't, I almost home though.
Craig, you said Group A?
Group A, yes.
Okay. All right, so let me do a bit of moving here. Give me a few moments, please.
B.
And Reggie, I don't see that you've been renamed. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I would prefer Group A.
Group A, okay.
Posted in the chat, yep.
Got it, thank you.
Take me to Group B.
Okay.
Mr. Tseng, Group B?
Yep.
Thanks for everyone for bearing with me for a moment.
Oh, while Jessica's getting it set up, I just wanted to let you all know that you know, part of the details that go into how this actually happened was a collaborative process that required many iterations, all because high school is difficult.
Okay, I think we're on the right group.
Cool.
Looks like we're good here. So Damiano, take it away.
Sure. I'm gonna actually start by asking Chris,
Hey, what's up?
what the
Oh,
experience was like making the curriculum, just so that way people have an idea of like, why was it made this way?
Yeah, thanks, Damiano. Sure. So, you know, a lot of how I came up with the curriculum was, you know, in a few buckets. One was definitely my own experience in kind of how I have gone through, you know, coming out of high school, going to college, and then, you know, looking for my first jobs in the field of cybersecurity, and how I went out and started to gain that exposure and experience. That was one. Another big area is actually where the industry is going. And an example of that is, you know, 10, 12, 15 years ago, cybersecurity was, hey, we need a new security analyst on the team, and we want someone who's a jack of all trades. And the industry has started to walk away from that over the last 6 years, where there now are very specific jobs within the organization in cybersecurity. So when you think of what that means, there is a team that really just handles vulnerability management, and another team that handles red team and penetration testing, and another team that handles blue team exercises and you know, monitoring detection. There's a whole nother team that might do, you know, your policy writing. And the point there is there are a lot of jobs inside of an organization with cybersecurity. It's not only just hacking into, a website or hacking into a network, which is definitely very glorious, and that's where the fun is. But if someone may not want to do that, or maybe intimidated by that because they don't have the requisite programming skills, you don't really need to worry about that. I mean, a lot of red team members that I know are not, computer software engineers. So the point of this curriculum is a baseline. It definitely has some theory behind it, but it also has a lot of exercises that are hands-on and that are technical, and it is meant to show, okay, here, how do we teach and basically give the students the opportunity to learn these exercises, but not cost a significant amount of money. And a lot of these same open source techniques and tools are definitely used in the industry, and they're used by some of the largest organizations that might have a $500 million security budget. So it's meant to show that these are tried and true technologies that students will be learning, that are definitely where the industry is today and where the industry will definitely be, tomorrow. And obviously things will change, but getting the students to understand the foundational aspects of those technologies. And so, what you'll see, what's not in this curriculum is a lot of heavy emphasis on computer programming. A lot of it is more foundational. What does a blue team do? What are the tools that a blue team has in their arsenal for improving the security program, detecting, malicious events on the network? The red team, similar scenario. How will they go through scanning? How will they go through different, steps along the stages of an ethical hacker? Things like that, and doesn't really require as much computer programming, but at the same time gets the message across that there are a lot of jobs and a lot of skills that are transferable from this course. So I'll pause there. Damiano, if there's anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, so to Chris's point, and where we're gonna make the jump off of, is that this is the start of something. It's not the end. This does not culminate in a credential. It does not, officiate a young person being ready to enter the world of cybersecurity as a bona fide professional. It's part of a continuum of learning. And so previously, Jessica shared on the slides that we definitely recommend students walking into this course with some foundation in information technology, whether you want to call that telecommunications and computer repair or networking or what have you, that's fine. But just a little awareness about like what goes into computing and how do they interact, and those types of things will really provide students with a foundation to move forward. But to actually now dive into the curriculum, one of the few things that I can share is that, that might not be immediately obvious, is that Chris really spent the time breaking down every single component to make sure that even if they had no idea what anything meant, there was a good chance that it was either already in the lesson or that there was some type of resource available to them throughout it. And so what the end result became was this 8-unit curriculum that takes up 108 hours. And that 108 hours is inclusive of things like projects, hands-on activities, lessons, what have you. And most of them are equitably sized. They're almost the exact same size, with the exception of the later units, which are a bigger size in general. But to get started, like, each one of the resources provided to you comes in the format of a slide deck. And these slide decks are actually outfitted with, more information than just what students need in order to be able to succeed. So if I go ahead and open up any of these documents, I'm going to notice that there are a few things in here that follow the design principles of teaching high school, but also aspire and go for that need of what does it look like for our students to be industry ready. And so, it also kind of mimics the look of a lesson plan. We did not want to take away from the autonomy or the creativity of our teachers, especially since each one of you is in a unique situation. You know, all of you have different styles and they work for the population that you work with. But the general flow that we went with was all of our lessons are 45 minutes. And if they need to span multiple days, they've been segmented in a way that you can say like, oh, there's a logical stop right here. So that way, if you don't have a double period, you don't have a triple period, you just have one 45-minute section with students for the day, you could, across a whole year, teach this course in its entirety if you do so choose. Each lesson has a standard do now question or set of questions that relate to the previous day's learning. This is day one, so there's no previous day. It's just to see what students know about the topic in general. And everything has been timed to fit within that 45-minute period. Now, for those of you that may be a little unfamiliar with, you know, building slides or anything like that, you're welcome to customize this, do whatever you want. But the key feature here is down at the bottom in what is called the speaker notes. This doesn't show up on the slide. It's something that if you make a printed handout or you're using the present mode, you'll actually see this note on the side on just your screen. And this is extra information to help you answer the questions, you know, find resources and get close to the materials that you need. So that way, each day when you're ready to teach a new lesson, you have at your fingertips the answers rather than like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So there's always this like reference point of support. Each lesson also has for you some instructional objectives. They will need to be revised as we wanted to keep them rather agnostic and also simple and direct. But we know that in schools, there are like requirements that go into these objectives or goals or whatever your school calls them. But we didn't want to follow one specific format as that might require you to do extra work to make it fit for your school community. But we also tried to break down like just what are students supposed to get out of the day. Chris also took a shot at aligning things to professional skills. And so that relates to the MHA framework that's required for building soft skills for young people. And we'll develop a technical skill list based on the materials in it. But since this is day one, and it's really just about what is cybersecurity, there isn't a tech skill to address. Each slide will then follow, in general, I would say almost all of them follow the Vygotskian psychology learning theory of the teacher does something for a little bit, then you all do something together for a little bit, and then the students try or do it on their own. And so we've really tried to minimize the amount of teacher time and really focus on student learning for what they're doing. However, in this 7-minute breakdown of content of this one slide, there's this upfront information that students get to know, but then there are also questions that you as an educator can take advantage of with their corresponding answer. So that way, again, you're not reaching for some unsure resource, you're not looking elsewhere. You can just very easily and casually say, you know, I need to know what this is because I'm a little confused. I should also mention that if you have any questions while we go, you can also feel free to just drop them in the chat. I can see both of them at the same time. And then just following that good format, you know, each slide then has like a we do activity, and this might be like a partner discussion, like a think, pair, share. It might be like a group, you know, search or like a research item. It might be, you know, go and create this thing or do that small piece. And so for that type of work, we're looking at, you know, students getting involved and using the content that they just got to share out and kind of reinforce. So those checks for understanding are built in there, and you won't have to, you know, struggle to just come up with every single thing on its own. And then just in the same way that you would for, you know, an activity in your class, we've created these activities. Chris has gone through like many iterations of like what can be done in the possible time, what types of resources do we need. So there's a resource being called here the links are right here in the chat. So that way, if you use Google Classroom, you use Blackboard, whatever you use at your school, you're not just throwing slides at kids, but you're saying like, this works for me. I need to put these links in my learning management system, or, you know, like that doesn't work. I need to just email this to them and have them walk through it together. We didn't want to dictate platform. Any upfront questions or concerns just related to format, design, structure? You can also unmute yourself for that. Okay. So in general, the curriculum is broken down into those 8 pieces, and Chris shared out a lot of what they are. You know, we talk about the blue team. What do they do? What are some tools that they use? We also go into the red team. We spend a lot of time, and this was a really important thing for us to really integrate into all of our lessons. A lot of time goes into the ethics and the morality of what using these tools mean, and legal repercussions. So even though there's a unit dedicated to cyber ethics, there's a lot of like callbacks to that unit about like what's the right thing to do, like what should you do in these circumstances. A lot of things are very contextualized, very real world, and they all come from a place of like, if you do this, you know, there's an implication for it ethically that could affect you both professionally and personally. Now, when you're walking through these units, okay, the first one is going to be a lot of the career aspect components. So I would say the first 4 are about like, what's cybersecurity? What are the roles there? There's a project for students to, you know, investigate different career aspects. There's multiple, as Chris said, there's multiple roles, and that each student will create a basic presentation relevant to that particular role. So that way they can either share out or use the slide deck that they create and bring it all together. There's integrated times for work-based learning opportunities. So you can see that there's like this idea of like bringing in a bunch of professionals right at the beginning to get buy-in and understanding, and also a direct link to what they're doing. And then the second half of the first unit is a lot of like getting into it, because we felt that if students had to wait you know, 3 units to try or do anything, they'd be really checked out. So these are a great set of labs, Nova Labs specifically, that get students ready to go. It's in a structured environment. You know, there's a lot of material that, you know, is supportive to the teacher, but also very directive to the students about what they're learning and how to actually do the thing. So there isn't a like, it's not just like, go do this thing, see you in 45 minutes, but rather when you're actually inside a particular lesson, there are these linked, I'm sorry, I'm trying to grab this up. There's this linked page that goes to like an interactive gamified experience about how to do these things and what are the concepts that will show up later in other units. Okay. So that would be how I would break down unit 1. But then coming into unit 2, we come back to this whole thing of like, what is ethically appropriate? And so we'll break things down like, what are the 10 commandments about being an ethical cybersecurity professional? We'll go into, you know, what are ethics, and do they change based on context? Are there ways that you can ethically do something as opposed to, you know, like just doing a penetration test for fun rather than getting permission to do it on your corporate network? There's also like the fact that, you know, people hire those that have these skills, even if they're not exclusively taught in an educational institution. But then again, we wanted to bring it back to, what do I get to do? Okay, because there's a lot of like, oh, if you don't do this thing, you can get in a lot of trouble. And so we decided that we would go the social media approach and say, you know, there's a lot of danger in that. There's a lot of control over your privacy settings though. Let's see what we can do that we should share, that we shouldn't share. What is something that we should say, hello world, you need to know that I'm a Scorpio, and then, but you don't need to know my actual birth date. So it was a light way of including like personal information, as well as like really pointing out there that there's a lot of stuff out there that particularly malicious people can take advantage of against you that you might not even know is out there. Then we turn into the more, I don't want to call it theoretical, but a lot of very conceptual foundational components that go into a lot of the language and items that get built into cybersecurity. So there's a few concepts in here that are broken down by lesson. When you go into them, you may notice that they're multiple days. They're not just one event. So for example, this first lesson is actually 2 separate days if you're a single period 45-minute class. And we can see that, you know, from slide 2 to slide 8 is lesson 1. And then when the next do now starts, that will be number 2. And they intricately link between one another to reinforce information, but also give them the time to apply skills and learning that they may not have been able to do if we only kept it into 45 minutes. With this particular example, this is going through like, what is AAA? What is multi-factor authentication? But then in day 2, like now that they know what it is, we've done a check for understanding, they're actually going to look at an event that occurred, right? A case study, and say like, based on what I've learned about, based on what's reported in this incident, what can I pull out as like matching the vocabulary that I have, and also what could I say like needs to be improved. There's a big writing component in the course, so that because in some situations as a cyber professional, you have to create these reports to identify like a solution. There's
Hey, Damiano, I would add, yeah, just you just to echo what you made, the last point you made. There is a lot of situations or scenarios where, you know, in an ideal world, yes, an organization has all the security tools, they have everyone that detects, you know, breaches and incidents before they happen, but in the real world, that doesn't happen. And, you know, there are these situations where a professional in the field, no matter what role they are, will be asked to say, what happened and how do we fix it? And, oh, by the way, you need to present this not to a bunch of technical individuals, but you need to speak to very impatient business leaders that are going to be breathing down your neck for an answer very quickly. And so, you know, giving the students the understanding and knowledge that, hey, I do have to present this out and communicate a technical thought to a non-technical individual in the field is where some of these case studies come from.
Thank you, Chris. Also, to Nicole has a question in the chat asking about Nova Labs. You do not need to pay for Nova Labs. It's a web-based platform. Students can just sign up for an account. There's no like teacher code or anything like that. Students can take screenshots or do a write-up based on however your style is of actually interfacing with the activity. It's also not the only thing that we're using in this course. This course was based on free and open source. So that way you could do a whole bunch with a whole little bit. And so all of the various tools that are in this course fall into that category. And there is actually a resource that will provide to you that lists all of those things and whether they're web-based or they need to be installed on your computer. But in all situations, unless otherwise notated, they're free and easy to access.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, good. No, it's a really good question. When you reach the second part of this unit, like you're doing that business proposal. This one's a little bit more formalized, so that way they know all the parts that go into it. So that way later on, when they're asked to just do one, they've, you know, have this conceptual understanding of like, oh, I've had to make every little piece. And there's obviously a big component of like professional skills. Verbal communication is always going to be something that every program needs. But as Chris shared out, like you need to be able to share those technical concepts to any type of audience. When you fly on down to Unit 4, this is when we're going to get into more of the cryptography type details. You may have, if you teach like the Cisco Cybersecurity Essentials course or like a CompTIA exam, they have some of these concepts, like they do like the different types of encryption keys, but they don't particularly ask students to know all about them. And so there's the beginning of like, what is cryptography? What are different types of, I'm going to call them puzzle challenges, but they're cryptography challenges of different types of ciphers and like, how do they work at the most simplest level? And then ramping that up to say like, okay, in a more difficult way, like how does the computer actually use encryption to, secure data? And then there's a foray into like, how do you keep this information private? And all of that is done with like engaging materials and lessons. So like with the ciphers, all of those things are like, you have the key, you need to figure this out, like, spend time going through the manual process of doing that. When you get to, the later lessons is about like, try on this game, try this. And it's a way to bring the theoretical into something that they can actually have a result for, instead of just like being like, oh, it's a thing I need to know.
Damiano, apologies for interrupting. I'm going to give you about like 10 more minutes as wiggle room. So Maurice is cool with this in the group B. So feel free to carry on for a little bit longer.
You got it.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is where things take a turn. And honestly, for those of you that are like, I need a whole bunch of exercises, I need things that I can, like get students involved in and get their hands on, that is where the Unit 5 like really shines. And so there's this whole conceptual framework of like, what is security architecture? How does it work? And so for this unit, there's I would say that there's like two parts, and Chris, you can expand if you want. But the first part is very focused on network security, and it's like, what goes into a network? Like, what are the items that like make up a framework for a network? So you talk about OSI, you talk about TCP/IP, you talk about like, what are the practices that go into securing a network, and then you take advantage of in this specific situation, two different softwares. You use Nmap, and then you use Wireshark. And Wireshark is like to me, it's a packet sniffer. It pulls up information that's going across your interfaces and on the network. And Nmap is a little bit more of like out there on the network, trying to figure things out. There's also a component that deals with just your operating system security without leaving your system. Like, what can you do to protect your computer? And then, of course, there's this defense in depth theory of like, it's not just protecting your computer. It's not just, making sure that your network is secure, but it's like as simple as like, let's lock the door. Okay. So that way you have multiple levels of protecting your assets and your data. And there are a whole bunch of activities that go along with breaking that down. And so, Chris, if you could just share about DVWA, because I won't be able to do it justice.
Yeah, no problem. And just so like logically folks could start thinking of it, you have, the unit on identity and access management, then you had another one on data protection, and then we started going into the networking component of it. Where DAM, vulnerable web app comes from is, it's associated with the, the open web application security standards that are out there, and it is meant to provide, as it sounds, a vulnerable web application. And the students go through various types of vulnerabilities and how those vulnerabilities are exploited. And oftentimes over the last, 10, 15 years, the list of those top 10 vulnerabilities, they may change here and there, but they are very similar. And the same mistakes are made. And usually that's the case because security is sometimes or most often not budgeted or not designed up front. And so you hear about brute forcing, passwords, other things about, we could get into it, SQL injection, but there are others there, and it goes through in a very simplified way what these vulnerabilities are, how the students could take the actions to exploit those vulnerabilities, and ultimately learn on this, learn on those. And this one here is brute forcing, and basically in some of them, you're not only just using a basic command, but you also are incorporating, say, Wireshark, where you're looking at the packet analyzer, and you're looking at the packets where potentially a password might be stored in clear text. That's an example in a future lesson, but that's also how we're trying to incorporate something they've learned, a tool, and how that tool can be used in different ways. But back to the damn vulnerable web app, it's basically a set of scenarios where the students get to exploit some of the top vulnerabilities that you'd find on a website and get educated and skilled on that area.
Thank you, Chris. And so, in some situations, and when we talk about it, if you stay with the group later, like if you want to use the whole thing, like it may take you longer, it may take you shorter, and that's okay. We got to do what works for our students. To not spend too much time, but to still do them justice, unit 6 and 7 have to do with the respective blue and red team. And the units both progress in the same way, where they start off with like, what do these people do? Like, what are they trying to accomplish? It introduces additional concepts. So there's still this development of like knowledge base to go with application. And then just like in the first half of unit 5, Unit 6 provides that theoretical component with the activities embedded within that result in a intensified set of labs that students can then work through. This one has a specific tutorial for it that then leads into exercises, because we know that we can't just turn to students and be like, here, go do the thing. And that way they will feel supported and, more importantly, confident in utilizing the software in this point. One thing that I did want to bring up, and then Chris, I think there's something you want to add, is that we are heavily recommending that you install virtual machines for this. If you don't know what a virtual machine is, that's okay. We will get you there. That will be part of the training. But we don't want you to mess up your computers in your own lab. And so please just know that we did think of you. Chris?
Yeah, sure. And echoing everything that Damiano mentioned. The other thing too on the blue team is the students, yes, will learn the skills of analyzing log sources, packets, and that's a very good skill set to learn, because expectation is any job they're going to have in the field, they're going to want to do that, not only for security, but anything really, any position in technology. But the other thing that we insert inside of blue team is the fact that most often you hear about ransomware attacks, and you hear about organizations being impacted in ransomware attacks. And what that essentially means is either they didn't have the log sources to identify ransomware before it injected its payload, or injected its basically ransom, its encryption on the machines. And so oftentimes you hear about an incident, you're in an organization where they say, we just had something that we had ransomware, we had an incident, we need you to go figure out what variant it is and things like that, what the virus is. So oftentimes in the movies, you hear of everyone detecting things in a network and stopping the bad guys before something goes wrong. But in reality, oftentimes you may be missing log sources, you don't have a clear picture, and it gives the students a different perspective to kind of learn how to identify in this case, a virus, a ransomware, and walk through that exercise. So gives them a different perspective, but again, another learned skill set that they will definitely need if they do want to, get into the field and pursue a career.
Yes. And so with unit 6 and unit 7 doing those both same set of progression, we want to make sure that students not only feel like they're growing in their knowledge aspect, but they're also being able to do things that they can very easily point to and say, not only do I know what I'm talking about, but I can identify it in the wild, in context. And so like in Unit 7, we're using Metasploitable, which is another software that you can take advantage of. Again, following the same requirements that before open source, it's there for you. And that will be part of the support package as well. And then in the final unit, there is this large tabletop exercise where students will be able to put it all together and really react as a unit to really try and respond to an incident that's happening to them essentially. And then what does that follow up? What does that report look like? You know, really living through a potential experience. They don't all look like this, but as a team rather than a set of activities or skill builders. And so there's like this whole nice big wrap up at the end. And, you know, you have, and we can talk about this later, but, you know, you can go off on any direction you want with this afterwards to really continue the sequence, or this might be for right now, your capstone. Is that my 2 minutes?
That's your 2 minutes. All right, I'm going to bring the other group back in here. Now's your time for a bathroom break if you need one. Okay, looks like they've got about a minute to come back here.
Any big questions, any concern? Positive notes?
Damiano?
Yes.
No, I was well informed. Sorry.
Damiano?
Yeah.
Like what time frame is that? I mean, approximately, I mean, top to bottom, is that like 3 months or something?
That's 108 hours. If you have a double period class, that's 1 semester. If it's a single period class, you'll be done in a year. Obviously, if you're doing it for younger students, it may take longer. If you're doing it for older students that have a lot more foundational knowledge, it could take shorter. And it also, of course, depends on like teacher pacing and all of that type of stuff. But it's approximated for 108 hours, which is 2 New York City credits.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Damiano, I'm curious about the experiences as you all played with this. In the COVID situation, how did it play out in the students' devices, especially those students who are using those DOE issued devices?
Yeah, so some of the applications will not function on like a tablet, but those mainly show up later. You could definitely get through, at least from the top of my head, you could get through the first 3, maybe, yeah, 3 units without really needing anything. So, and of course, we can also look for alternatives and things like that. But welcome back, Group B.
All right, we were going to do a bit of a 5-group full discussion. Reza, do you want to take it from here?
Absolutely, absolutely. Any overall impressions? Any maybe epiphanies? Any reactions from folks? Would love to just take a few minutes to reflect and to share, especially across our 2 groups, please.
Well, I'll start. I had the pleasure of working with the Maoris over the summer on the Amazon certification, and having been around since like Cisco 1.0 and knowing that our students kind of struggle with the content and keeping pace, I think the cybersecurity curriculum sounds, and based on what I've seen so far, sounds somewhat of a lighter flavor, if you will, where they can ease into it. Some of the concepts are definitely there, but not as in depth as you would need to be to pursue a certification. So if we're thinking of possibly implementing this on a modular basis or using this as a full-on CTE program and going for state approval, then what would the culminating assessment be? And then all the other things that go along with it, like articulation agreements and the like.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we can answer that right away, just to clarify for all of us. And we spoke about this at length when we were designing the curriculum. The intent here is not to duplicate, and by no means to design it to match what would be a certification. And Chris, I don't know if maybe you want to speak to that, but this really was an introduction, and it was designed to be absolutely sequential if people would like to implement all 108 hours, but it was also meant to be kind of a sampling, a plug and play as you wish, but not indeed. And I'm so glad that you've identified that already and immediately. Folks, this is not for your students to then go into the Security Plus test. No, this is just an introductory one. So to your question, Mr. Taylor, of what then would be the certification test, that's a great question that our group can continue to think through if we take this into a space where cyber becomes the CTE test for IT, or if in the future down the road we think about having a cybersecurity CTE pathway. That would be a great goal. And frankly, there are states that are already doing that. New York State is not yet doing that, but it would be ideal for us, and that's why we're here today too, is to start to build a community around thinking, how do we advance our cybersecurity education in the K through 12 space? Absolutely.
I just want to say, I think this is a good space for those students. Like, we're pushing AP for all a lot in schools, and you have some students who don't want to do AP for all. They may not want to do the computer science, but this maybe we can use this as an elective as well for them, in lieu of being forced to take an AP class that they don't want, but they don't, the administration don't want there to be like an empty space per se in their schedule. And I think it would encourage the students to maybe go to the next level with the Cisco, because I know, for years, the numbers have been a little lower than the state probably would like, but the Cisco exam is a little challenging. So I think this here would help to encourage those students, because like Benway said, the curriculum looks a little lighter than what Cisco looks like. And it seems like it's something that they can find more accessible. Like even, what Damiano was sharing with us and the way it's broken down and the timing and, the simplification, it's like, that's what our kids look for. Like, what can I do real fast to get to what I need to get done, right? And unfortunately, but I think that the way the curriculum is broken down, that it would, a lot of kids, I think, to ease into being ready for that Cisco. So I guess it would depend on, the group of students that you're dealing with on where to put it in. But I definitely think the team for doing all the hard work, all the lifting, like, I feel like after 30 years, the light is shining, that CTE for once don't have to recreate something that it already exists. So again, I thank you guys. I know it's been a lot of hard work, and it shows in the curriculum.
Great.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. This is E3rd. I'm definitely enjoying this because for a while I've been piecemealing stuff for my program. I teach tourism and hospitality, so I teach business, and I was always wondering, why am I not discussing this in business? Because you can't have business these days without cybersecurity. Anyone that basically tap into somebody's Wi-Fi is basically could inflict damage. So I know this is very light, but for anybody that need to get any certification, in my opinion, I think every person should leave high school with this curriculum under their belt. Because even in your own home, you can use some of this stuff. What is an IP address? Should I go into the Starbucks Wi-Fi, and should I check my bank account on there? And the truth is, a lot of people are so naive these days; they just don't know, because we don't discuss this type of etiquette. So I'm very pleased to be here, and my goal is to basically implement this. I'm not sure how fast or how slow into the 3-year business program that I teach, and then I want to bring this back to my co-workers. Hopefully, we can have more teachers on board to spread the word.
Excellent. Can I ask a follow-up to you and also to the group, which is, how might you use this curriculum? Are you thinking that you might use it as a full course? Are you thinking you might use it in a modular way, so some units, or would you want to plug in lesson specific?
That's
And
a great
that's for everyone
question. That's a great question because last year the Cisco cybersecurity, I've even tried it with some classes. Some it worked, some it didn't really work too well. I think this time around, I'm going to try to modify it to tailor the students' needs. Some students in my program gonna go to IT or finance when they leave me. So for them, I might lay it thicker with them compared to somebody that's gonna go, let's say to do law, or let's say to do healthcare, where this may not be something they want to get involved in. So I think that's how I might do it. Tailor it to the specific student to see how light or how heavy I'm going to implement it.
And right, so I can just add on to kind of what tag on to what he was saying. You know, in addition to teaching web design and computer programming, I've also taught for about 4 years. Not this year, but about 4 years before. I was teaching career and financial management, which is again a course we teach. We got in Bayside High School. We got 6 different CTE programs. You know, music, art, different flares of that kind, and they all need to take this CFM course, financial management. And when I bring up identity, ID fraud and those kind of things, you know, these things come up. So that's definitely an area where you can see that there are some students who are interested in this area and they're not aware of the, you know, the pitfalls that are out there. But just to directly answer your question of how we might use it, I don't see myself using it as a full-fledged thing, at least not right now. But what we are finding is that, you know, they don't do such a great job in selecting students who want to go into computer programming. You're asking an 8th grader, or probably at the end of his 6th grade, you're asking him, do you like computers? And they're thinking, wow, this is a nice chance to play video games the whole day. So they're all up for it. And then they come into program and they realize, oh, this is not for me. And then just completely shut down. And they do nothing and nothing at all for the rest of the year. So we are seeing these are some kids who potentially, when you discuss things like hacking or you know, anything of that kind, they have some interest because they want to see if they can break something, break the system. So they may actually, you know, have some potential in doing better in those areas and not in computer programs. So at least we then have a way to kind of send them in that direction. About 2-3 years ago, the NSA, National Security Agency, had created a game or something, I remember, that we had challenged our students with. It had to do with some basics, you know, very low level cybersecurity things. And the interest that the kids, pretty much all the kids in the class showed, was so much more than what they show in actual direct programming. So there is definitely a market, and especially if we keep it not so detailed. So at least we give them a feel for the area, and that way, when it's time for them to go on to college, they can choose to specialize or take courses in this area if they want to.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I am actually going to really open this question up and have everyone answer the question, because we do want to spend more time in our breakout sessions, one more round. And the way that we'd like to organize that is with this very question in mind. How do you think you might use this curriculum? Might it be more sampling of the lessons? Might it be a full trial of the curriculum, or maybe something in between? So your selection choices, and I can just drop these in the chat. I could also put the PowerPoint up, but I really always like the grid and to see all of us together. So your choices are to think through with your colleagues how you might sample some lessons, how you might implement the entire curriculum, or how you might have a modular design. So I think we should organize ourselves in the same way that we did before. If you wouldn't mind changing your name to which session you might want to be in, and we'll take it from there. I would just recommend keeping in mind a combination of what your own preference might be, but also if you know that your school is already asking you to do an entire course, you might want to get yourself to the group that is thinking about how they might implement all 180 hours of this. So let's get ourselves ready for one more breakout where we can explore this a little bit more. How might the specific curriculum look? If it's going to be chopped up or if it's going to be sequential and scaffolded.
Okay, so group A is gonna stay here. Group B will go with Maurice, and group C, if there is anyone who wants to do group C, will go with Chris. So I'm gonna give everyone a moment just to make sure they change their names. I'm still seeing a lot of group A's there. Let's see. So Andy and Emily, I will send you to group B. And it looks like, Craig, do you have a preference there?
Group B.
Group A, okay, we'll keep you there.
I'm trying to change my name. I'm here. Let's see. I take group B now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone for bearing with me one more time. Here we go. So Chris, I'm going to keep you in group A. Oh, we've got one group C choice. Actually, I take that back, Chris. All right.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to come back into rooms, you can feel free to do that. So I'm going to open up the rooms now, and everyone in group A will stay here. Okay, so you should be getting those messages now.
Okay.
Oh, on mute, Damiano.
I was just saying Stacy wanted B, but she's good and gone now. All right. Is this all of group A? It's fine if it's a small group. I'm not offended. All right. So in general, I would love to know, like, where do you see this fitting into your school as a full course? If that's why you picked group A, would it be part of a program that in the beginning, the middle, the end, something all new and entirely its own elective?
So I'll start. One of the challenges when I reconnected back with Westinghouse was that we have two IT programs or two IT strands under the umbrella of IT, but teaching skill sets that are different, but are somewhat under the IT umbrella. In some cases, when students apply to Westinghouse, they apply to the program, not to the school. So once they're in, they're locked into that program. But what if a student wanted to change, let's say after the first year? And simultaneously, prior to leaving, we were talking with colleges nearby as to how to get started with an articulation agreement. And we talked about colleges leading towards a industry certification. They said, no, we don't do that. We are focused on specific concepts in their degree pathway. So then what does that look like on the high school level with our CTE programs? And so in coming back last year, we started to bridge that commonality in which our 10th grade students all had a course in Python. Either it led towards web design programming, or it led to just an overall cybersecurity thing where everybody's learning Python, primarily because I was also exposed to the Amazon Web Services, in which you now can implement scripts, and scripting is a part of all of these tools. Now, how do we determine if the student is actually really interested in the IT pathway? So I'm looking at this course. more as the early intro piece in the 10th grade level, and actually backtrack it even one more to giving some of the underlying skill sets, like in IT fundamentals, where we're covering um, basic hardware, basic software, basic command line commands. What is a command line? Similar operating systems, where we can really introduce them and make sure that if they're going to pursue the language aspect, whether front end or back end on a web design piece, that they're really committed to that in the 11th and 12th grade. Or if they're going towards the computer system support side, make sure that they're ready for that. Simultaneously, we're one of the partner schools to the Brooklyn STEAM Center, so those students don't get any CTE for the first 2 years. What sort of electives do they actually take for us? And I think we could fill some of the holes in their programs with a fundamental course, whether it be this curriculum or the fundamental piece, so that that makes them fully functional across all their academic classes. They can troubleshoot their own issues. And now we're building a school-wide community or neighborhood-wide community of folks who are knowledgeable and can build that network.
Yeah, I'm gonna that's a lot. But yeah, it's definitely possible. I'm gonna pass it on to somebody else, but I'm just gonna say if they're coming to the STEAM Center, and we can talk offline, they should not be taking any electives. Separate conversation though. I believe we have Rosie, right?
Yep.
How,
Hey guys.
what's the theory or concept of maybe using this as a course at your school?
Well, so we moved computer science Java into the junior year. And so right now that means that all of our juniors, all of our seniors are taking that course. And so I think we're going to have a hole in our senior year because previously we had had the juniors taking sort of an intro course to prepare them for Java. And so I haven't decided yet whether this would be, you know, a standalone course or whether we do it piecemeal. And part of it is that, at least from my perspective, you know, I'm an electrical engineer, not a computer scientist. And so I really rely on my team to review these things and let me know if they, you know, what their thoughts are on it. And so I would show it to my teachers in the senior year right now. And just, I want to first get a sense of like, how much of the course are they already doing? So we have an IT fundamentals class and a database design course, but I know that some of these things, you know, some of the lessons that you showed us in the first session, you know, around like setting up a virtual machine and having the kids hack into it. I know that they're doing some of that stuff in that class, you know, so I don't know how much of this is being duplicated already and how much of it would be new and a standalone. Some other thoughts that I have are, you know, maybe doing some partnerships and bringing in some like guest lecturers, especially if we're going to be in this remote environment, you know, again. I think there's a real opportunity to have some people teach the class if they don't have to, you know, commute to our building and do it. And even, you know, they could still, even if we're back in person, they could still do like a video conference and Zoom in and sort of set it. I think that could be a real motivator for our students. You know, one of the things that I find at Tech is that the students are really, really bright and they really master what's been presented to them. But if it hasn't been presented to them by a teacher, sometimes they don't have that knowledge. I also have to apologize. I have a 3-year-old in the background. You know, this is sort of what happens. So it's more like I'm thinking still through it, but because I haven't committed one way or the other yet, I really want to understand as much as I can about the whole broad overview of the curriculum.
Yeah.
So thank you. And it looks like a lot of work has gone into this. So nice job.
Yeah, Chris really put his heart and soul into it.
Yes, really
Greg?
awesome.
I think I'll go now if nobody else is going. I think I had said I had talked before. I do teach business, and I do think that I'm gonna play around to see where this fits best. Since I have the students for 3 years, they come in 10th grade, and I'm with them 10th, 11th, and 12th. So and I already have a whole NAF curriculum I have to cover, and we cover other aspects as far as event planning. So I'm thinking for me, the truth is, I can make this last me all 3 years. and then and then therefore then maybe what I might do is chop it into in 3 years. The first year will cover, let's say, 1 through this, and then when they come in 11th grade, then we'll cover this much, and then 12th grade they'll cover this much. At least I'll know for when they leave junior high school, not only they'll have a good understanding of business, but they'll also have, in theory, a solid year of cybersecurity. And usually in 12th grade, we try to get them internships or other type of jobs. It'll be nice when they're all at a job interview. Hey, what else are you learning in high school? Did you know I'm also taking a cybersecurity? I think that'll only make them more marketable in the business world. And on top of that, they're learning something. Not everybody has a chance. And then long term wise, I will bring this to our AP. I'll let him know that I'm doing this with you guys. Would he be interested in offering this to the whole school? So it's not just me that's trying to fit it into what I have, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So everybody seems to have like their own concept of like where this would plug into their, course offerings currently. And, whether you want to do it early on, like Ben Roy said, or you want to do it later, like Brooklyn Tech, like it really just fits for your class environment and like what works best for you. With regards to individual school support, like Benroy, if you need me to walk you through this as a part of a different conversation, because me and you share students in some way, so we need to make sure that we can tell the difference between our programs, so that way students pick the thing they're most interested in. Brooklyn Tech, you're right down the block from the Navy Yard in my mind. And so, if you need somebody to speak to your staff, like after you get things down and on the roll, like would happy to look at your, scope and sequence, if that's part of a full program, or is it just another component of their high school experience? That's something we can definitely chat about. And then of course, Joseph, for my perspective, this is your approach is very unique. I would never really consider doing that, but like if that's what works and you feel like it fits into your program, like I don't see why some of these concepts, maybe not all of them in my mind at least, would apply, but it should work. So if you're really thinking about like this is going to be a course, it's going to fit into a CTE program sequence, there's a few questions you might want to ask yourself. And that might be like, am I trying to replace something, or am I trying to supplant something? Am I trying to replace something, or am I trying to add something? Some schools have 3-year programs. Maybe this is the 4th year, or maybe it's a bridge between years 2 and 3. In some cases, maybe it's the bridge between years 1 and 2. We mentioned before that there's not a specific credential aligned to this curriculum. There's still a lot of alignment available to credentials out there. It just wasn't 100% done. And so if you want to take the time to look at credentials that are out there and align them across your program as a way to say, like, am I capable of attaining this standard for the majority of my students? That's something we can do. And then of course, one more question that you should ask is like, am I fitting this in because it's trendy, or am I fitting this in because it fits logically? If you're going to, and I think Nicole Zagata, who shared out earlier when we were all together, said, like she needs to update her curriculum. Her words, not mine. I don't know what she's doing over there. But if she feels like she's falling behind the times a little bit, maybe this material will help bring it up. But maybe she's going to change her mind and be like, you know what, that I can't do the whole course, or maybe I should just do the whole course and pilot it and see where the gaps are, because maybe it wasn't in year 2 that I taught these concepts. So I really need to extend 180 hours into 150. Every person will approach the way that they implement this differently. But what I can tell you is that because it's developed by an industry professional, we know that there's relevance to out there in the industry, because it's pre-made in a way that it's not. And I'm not saying, especially for the administrators in the room, I'm not saying that this is pick it up and go in the classroom and use it, because there's a lot of customizing and a lot of things that go into teaching beyond just a PowerPoint. but it's a very good start, which is something that Stacy was mentioning before about how nobody's ever given CTE curriculum before. You know, like you could try the College Board, you can say Project Lead the Way, but they're not giving you anything. They're not giving you the day-by-day lessons. They're not giving you materials and lab activities in a way that students can meaningfully pick it up and do something with it. Because I've taught all of those, and I firmly believe that that statement is true. But I feel like this is a lot closer to building onto your an existing sequence. And if one day funding becomes available, you know, maybe starting a whole new program. But, you know, I'm here to answer any questions you have. We are limited in time, but it was really to get those ideas out so that way we could make them real. That was the purpose of this conversation. Any additional commentary, big questions or concerns?
No, nothing major. You probably have said this earlier, but it took me a few minutes to get on. As far as the PowerPoint in the lessons, are you guys going to send us like a separate Gmail suite for that stuff, or do we get it from somewhere else?
So everything will be available currently, and I can put that link back in the chat, and we will send it to you. Everything is in a Google Drive folder, so it's all the lessons, which are all in slide deck form. There's also an overview which breaks down the lessons into like one document, so you can kind of just trail through it all at once.
Perfect.
And then once it's finalized, there's like an equipment type list. It's not like, oh, buy these computers or do this thing, but rather like these are the programs you need to install to use this use the curriculum in full. These are web-based, like their websites, and these are things you actually have to install. Here is our recommendation of what kind of computer you should have. You know, this is it's a bunch of recommendations about like how to best set up your lab environment, things like that. But there's no like hard requirement about what.
Very good, thank you.
So we have about 5 more minutes. Craig, I know you came in and out of the group. We were kind of just sharing out on ways that each of us are thinking about using this in your classroom. Do you have any thoughts on your end?
Yes, I was listening until I got cut off. What it is, because I'm a new teacher, what I would do is actually bring it to the group, our CTE group, and see how best we could implement this course. We have the web design, we have networking taking place, and but if I were to teach this, I know I would probably introduce it to my juniors and see how best as an introductory course, maybe say an elective for one semester, or you know, the full course for the year, and see if we could continue that trend over the rest of the you know, school time that we have, pretty much. But I would first take it to my CTE group.
You're at Inwood, right?
Yes, I'm at Inwood Early College.
Okay.
We don't do security there as yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the ultimate hope and intention is to, like, for those of us that are grappling onto this, we want to use it. We want to see where it goes. Like, it becomes part of this bigger continuum of learning. And then also, like, we can, for those of us that are teaching the courses and teaching the content, no matter how small of a lesson or how, you know, using the whole course, we can come together and say, like, this is what worked for us. This is the version we created. And, you know, it becomes a resource platform also, instead of it just being like, here's the thing, see you never, because that's not beneficial or useful to anybody. Because there's a lot of things changing out in the industry, and a lot of those things are like, can high schools make cyber pathways? Can they, you know, link up with colleges? And so when people that test drive this and they you know, take it out for a spin, like, we can figure out what works best, bring it to even the bigger community and say, like, we know this works, this college is on board, you know, and we'll try to do those things. You know, that way everybody can take advantage of an opportunity rather than being a locked and closed door of like, you can't have it because you weren't there.
I'm curious as to whether or not this will be a part of the discussion at the IT commission meeting, as far as like vision, possible ways that it connects to the broader industry, things that we're not thinking about.
Yeah, right now it's not folded into the agenda. What are you thinking, like in your mind, would you envision that as like a 30-minute discussion or just an update? Just curious.
Both, for deeper discussion.
Yeah.
It's another piece for the meetings, the other meetings, the
Oh
sector.
yeah, the sector-based
Well,
learning gatherings on Thursdays.
right.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Because no one's talking about program approval this year just yet. And I think for me, my goal was to at least get program approval done. And now that it's done, let's really do the work of refining the curriculum and make sure it's viable, and it has viable post-secondary options. So whatever I have on paper, yeah, that was just to get the program approval done, get folks supplemented with basic curricula, but it's not the Ferrari, if you will.
I think just like with everything that's new, like there's a pilot to see if it works. And I do agree with you that it should be something we announce as part of like the sector-based conversation and be like, hey, we came out with this, like, you know, and, you know, we had always planned to invite people to an information session that couldn't be part of this training due to a variety of reasons. And so it'd be interesting to see like, what do people in general think it's going to be about, like who would want access and stuff like that. I do think there's value in bringing it to the IT commission, but I don't think there would be value bringing it immediately to them, as we still don't even know what this looks like in a classroom.
Right.
We still have no teacher perspective on like it, and so to just bounce it back from an industry professional to another industry professional, it may just be an argument over terms, like, well, this is great, but like you should have also have done that. Like I would personally, I would rather hear how it went with teachers and then bring it back to industry before looping it in several situations. Hi, everybody else.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome back to our joint group.
Can I just say something real quick? Because I got cut off. So those of us in Group B, I apologize. But I included the link of the curriculum map. And if you go to that link again, you're going to see the entire curriculum map. And what I would suggest is go through the curriculum map and see what lesson you can cherry pick or what unit you can cherry pick that can be used to enhance your current curriculum. That's what I wanted to finish saying. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So let's take some time to reflect together. Let's take some time to just share what you spoke about in your group, with a vision of how that might be useful to others who were not in your group. Reflections, and also your responses, your observations on what you took away from this second breakout, please.
I'll go first. Well, there was definitely a lot of good ideas. There were a lot of other people talking. Some of them know a lot more than me, so which was good. I had to take stuff in, but it was very good. As I was listening, I had a chance to talk, and then I received some feedback on some questions I should be asking myself. How I'm gonna implement this into the program, and then it dawned on me. Because of COVID now, of course, I'm not doing it, but I had started an after school club. And I was thinking, even after school, I can start this as a club also, and I can open it to everyone. So this is great because as I'm hearing stuff, my mind is just turning and turning. My whole goal is to make it fit, and my whole goal is to bring it to the whole school, because I do believe these days everyone needs to be educated on cybersecurity. because I just think we need that in this day and age that we live in. So I was thinking maybe I'm making an after school club open to everybody, and then have a sign up sheet, and whoever comes, and then we'll basically go from there.
A bit of context, Reza, before you jump to the next. When Reza and I were, way before we met Chris, when we were doing some research into how cybersecurity is being folded into other states' CTE programs, we actually found out some, Joseph, you were kind of, what you were saying reminded me of this. We found out that in, I believe it's the states of North Dakota and Virginia, I'm getting a nod from Reza, that those states in particular, now who knows what's happening now, but they in particular have been wanting to include cybersecurity in all of their CT tracks. So not specific just IT, not specific to tech or software engineering or computer science, but like they were doing it in their culinary programs, they were doing it in their business programs, they're doing it and in their architecture programs. It's now what they were considering doing was including it as a core requirement. So interesting to throw that into the mix, because I think Joseph, in particular, what you're saying is this is relevant to all kinds of CTE students, not just solely the tech students.
I agree.
Absolutely. And I just wanted also to point out, in a group with Daryl and with Chris, we talked about 108 hours. And of course, that was designed specifically so that it could be a credit-bearing course. But we also talked about, well, how can that be implemented in different ways? Well, I think, Daryl, your goal is going to be to implement it throughout the year as one course curriculum, but that could be accelerated, that could be slowed down, or that indeed that could become curriculum that you use for an extra outside of class time, for an extracurricular club, because you really can pull in and out any lessons that you might like. So have people sitting in the space that they selected for how you think you might use the curriculum, has that reinforced your suggestion and your thinking that you might use it that way, or has it maybe made you switch up a little bit, thinking that you might need to use modules instead of just lessons, or that maybe this is enough or not enough quite for you to teach the entire class?
I think in our group, we were talking more or less or thinking, I would say, around how to fold it into what you're currently doing, and not to start it as a separate, whatever you're teaching, no matter whether it's computer science or, computer repair, cabling, how do you fold this into it? And that's why Amari's decided to show us the curriculum map, so we can look at the map with a expanded view and say, okay, let me look at that and see how I could take this piece. This has something to do with what I'm talking about, and take that lesson and, fold it into it. And I guess eventually build it out.
Great.
I always think about modular because I teach year 1 and year 2. And then I teach the advanced class, year 3, which that part would be much more advanced, looking at some of the part of meta exploitation, having them really do the activity and having them injecting from their house. And there's other pieces where I can simplify it down to my middle school level, because I teach 8th graders and I haven't touched digital citizen yet, because there are some parts that on the high school curriculum, I can push it down to middle school and have them learn a little bit more, have them pique that interest of cybersecurity, that there is something in the high school that we can offer, all right, and have them learn a little bit more. It's like giving them a little dessert, as you say, of the concept, and then spring it on them when they get into high school. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And that's it. All right. Anybody else have that suggestion I was thinking about? It's like sprinkling, pulling. And also I pull some, in my other classes, I pull some labs from my other Cisco classes. So if I have cybersecurity, cyber essentials labs that's relevant to what I'm teaching, I just pull it out from there and just give it to them.
Can I add something as well?
Go ahead.
So the other thing I want everyone to be aware of as well is remember that what we're trying to do here is we don't want this curriculum to be too difficult where we are excluding, teachers and students who don't have experience with cybersecurity or with advanced skills with computers. So we are trying to segue them into the advanced topics. And that's the reason why, if you look at the curriculum, you have the blue team and the red team at the end. Usually when it comes to the students, they want to get into hacking. That's the first thing in their mind. But those labs and those activities are at the end, but you do touch on them when it comes to the first few units in the sense of we're getting them prepared, mentally prepared, to understand the jargons, to understand the vocabulary, right? So to understand the purpose of encryption. So we try to put those labs and activities in the beginning. And when it comes, that way, when they walk through the curriculum towards the end, they have hopefully a mature posture in terms of understanding what the role is if you are a member of the blue team, if you're a member of the red team. And then when it comes to the Security Operations Center, being able to write the report and understand what's the purpose behind these reports. Because at the end of the day, these reports that they're writing, that they're compiling, is going to be the difference between the company being hacked and having thousands of data, millions of data out in the wild and the open. So if you feel like this is too easy for you because you are in you have, let's say, a advanced networking course, I would definitely suggest for you to take whatever content, whatever unit you have to enhance your course. And also, like I said in the group, if you are in a programming or web design course, I would definitely encourage you to go through the curriculum. But if you feel like you don't want to go through the curriculum, but instead you want to enhance it, again, look at the curriculum map, take a look at what units and what lesson we have, look at the goals, the objectives, and see which one go hand in hand with whatever you're teaching.
I'm just noticing that we have almost everyone, and it's not a requirement, but we appreciate seeing all of you on video. It's really, really immense and heartfelt. I have outside of my window some music playing whenever it's warm enough. There's a guy who comes and plays guitar and Irish songs. So I'm feeling very, very inspired by all of you. But thank you for having your cameras on. But it also makes me feel okay to ask you this vulnerable question, which is feedback for us and your thoughts for us on how we might want to make our next session together useful for you, given our observations also around how you want to use the curriculum, how you've already found it to be.
Oh no, another pizza deal at Scary House.
Oh, sorry.
Introducing the new
No worries, all good. So let me put up, if you don't mind, and Damiano, I might put you on the spot a little bit to share what we have in mind for next week, but let's reflect on that because we have a little bit of space to maybe adjust that if people want. So we would love to know what you'd like for the next session with all of us together. So let me share the screen, bring this back up. Here is what we have in mind for what we were thinking of doing together next week. Let us know if this feels like the right place to go, or if we want to think about it in some other way. So we were thinking of spending a significant amount of time on skill building. And Damiano, if you want to maybe walk us through what we had originally talked through, or Amaris and Chris, we can do that to see if that lands us in the right place.
Yeah, no problem. So the general concept for session B or session 2 or whatever you want to call it is that we would really spend the time breaking down the skills and knowledge areas at the various I don't want to call them difficulty, but complexity levels. And so for those of us that feel like, well, I know a little bit, I'm in a pretty good place, I don't want somebody to, give me training in something I already know about, I'm gonna go to the intermediate or advanced group. And so each one of them is approximately an hour and a half of training time related to the content of the curriculum. So that way you as an instructor can feel more confident in what you'd be teaching, as well as the fact is you get a deeper look at some of the lessons and how they would kind of be executed, as well as some of the like theory and vocabulary and things like that. We're actually going to, I believe we should have a listing soon of like what goes into each category. So that way you can make a reflective decision based on that. But if you're at like any point in that session saying like, I don't know what any of this means, I need to go down a group, or this is boring me, I need to go up a group, you can. And then those will be recorded. So that way they're always good reference material for you and your staff. And then the second portion of, well, the very smaller portion of that session is like what additional resources are out there, what are we going to be able to do for you over the next year, and then like, are there future meetings? What does that mean?
How do folks feel about that? Does that sound like a good next step for us and a good way for us to spend next Monday together?
I think it's doable. It's very effective. We don't have a lot of skill building sessions, especially on the IT lens. So any chance we can get around each other and actually put into practice some of those skills, I think it sharpens us and it gives us insight in how we can inform the students what they expect to see.
Excellent. I'm just pausing in case others want to weigh in as well. And if people have any thoughts, any suggestions as well, we'll definitely send you a survey because we want your feedback and we want to know how this can be, of course, used for you in the future, and how we can certainly make next Monday useful for all of us as well. We also have, I think, a couple of announcements, Jessica.
Yep. So we'll pull together those resource links so that you have it in one place, not just the chat box. So we'll get that soon. And maybe we'll even think about like any sort of additional prompts of things for you to think about before the next session, so you can be able to decide which of those breakout groups that you come to. I want to just go ahead and emphasize that we reserve these slots with the commitment that you'd come to the second session. So don't bail on us, come to the second session. I also will be in touch with the folks about timesheets if that's relevant to you. And I'm also going to go ahead and put in the chat one last link here. So it's like I mentioned at the beginning, it's National Cyber Career Awareness Week, and the NICE group has a whole slew of events that are going on. I think they're mostly directed towards students is the impression I get, but I did want to make sure that everybody knew about those. So I'm just going to put that in there so we can feel part of the larger national community about cybersecurity going on this week. See, Damiano, Chris, or Maurice, any last words before we log off? A timely fashion here at 6:30.
I do. I have something to say.
Cool.
So last thing I want to say is this. So when it comes to cybersecurity, something that we got to keep in mind is that it's always changing. No one knows all the answers. And when it comes to cybersecurity, you need to collaborate. So for example, if you're going to be an expert on this, you need to be comfortable researching. You need to be comfortable finding the answers on your own. So if there's ever a time where you feel like you don't know the answer to something and the students are asking you a question about it, again, encourage them to search it up on the internet, encourage them to find other resources, to leverage their network, to leverage their friends as well. But when it comes to cybersecurity, again, you're really going into a world where you need to know a little bit about everything in terms of technology. right? So for example, my phone is different from your phone. My laptop has different applications from your laptops. So it's impossible for me to know everything about technology. So you definitely need to leverage, or you definitely need to hone your skill, your researching skill. So that's something I would definitely let you guys keep in mind. If you don't know the answer to something, that's okay. It's encourage your students to research. If you ever find yourself in a position where they're asking you a question and you feel like you're against the wall. And it happens to all of us too. I'm pretty sure Chris can tell you. Chris is the expert, and I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the first thing I learned very quickly in this field is that there really isn't any experts because it changes constantly, and there's so many, as Maurice just mentioned, there's so much to learn. There's so much a part of this field, and the more that you collaborate and learn with each other, that is how we're definitely going to be able to build this and expand. So yeah, I mean, listen, the field will always change, but it is a fun and exciting topic. And I've noticed from the small little snippets I had with going to a career day over at Energy Tech High School, how enamored and how the students loved it. So this is a topic they definitely are interested in.
All right, Damiano, give him a last inspiring comment.
No, I said it already. Y'all were great. We had a great time. You know, every single person brought their A game on a Monday evening, which I know is not the most preferable time for a PD, but it's the only time we got. And I can't wait to see all of you next week because I know that none of you would run away on us now, would you? So if that's all that needs to be said, I hope you all have a fantastic week. For those of you that are in schools, there's no work on Wednesday, so please enjoy that. And remember to take care of yourself until next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Good evening.
Have a good night. Thanks again.